So the victims, again, chosen at random, and let's put this on your screen because here are some of the victims' names, mainly Hispanic men, and their ages, it's a wide range, 21 to 52. Some are homeless, including the survivor, and that's the woman that you were talking about, Michael. So she opens up her tent there in Stockton. She sees a man pointing a gun at her. He's dressed in all black, has the face mask on. He lowers his gun. She lunges towards him, and then he still shoots her during this attack, and then he runs off. But here is the most frightening thing, in my opinion, is that he made not one sound to her, is what she reported. He didn't say anything to her. You know, didn't explain it, and then just walks off. Isn't that frightening?
No, the whole thing is terribly frightening, and you know, just the word serial killer alone just gets you frightened. But then this guy, there seems to be no, as you said, it was all random. There doesn't seem to be any real reason yet. They haven't been able to figure it out. Maybe they know more than they're letting on. I don't know. But at this point, more questions than answers. And unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Matt Johnson, thank you so much for keeping us abreast on the latest on that. Truly appreciate it. Let me bring in my guests for this hour. Joining me, litigation trial attorney Rich Schoenstein is with me. Also, entertainment and criminal defense attorney Mitra Ahorian is with us. And also joining us as our special guest for this segment, forensic psychologist Katherine Ramsland. Katherine, thank you so much. Thank you all for being with me this evening. And Katherine, I will start with you because initially I had some issue accepting these facts as a serial killer. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. Maybe I've watched too many, movies or whatever. But your thoughts on the characterization of this guy and what he's doing as a serial killer?
Well, a serial killer is simply someone who's killed at least 2 victims on 2 occasions. So he fits technically, but he might actually be a spree killer, considering how close in geographically and close in time these victims are. But they're all serial in some way.
All right, fair enough. All right, now the search is on, right? At the end of the day, the search is on. You got a guy. I'm surprised there's not more video of him with all the proliferation of cameras. But what should investigators be doing now? We heard a curious phrase, I thought, from one of the investigators saying that this guy's mission-oriented. He's on a mission. Did that mean anything to you?
Well, yeah, when you have somebody who's a sniper, typically they're looking either for gain, fame, or mission, or they're angry at somebody. So we don't see any instance where he's communicating with the media, so probably not fame. He's not robbing people, so probably not gain. That would leave the likelihood of a mission. Perhaps he's delusional, except that we see some evidence of planning, of being careful. But a mission, we don't know what that would be, but it could be that he's looking for victims who fit a specific type of criteria. So they're not entirely random. But we don't know that he has a mission. If he does, then those victims would typically fit within that range.
Now, you mentioned something very interesting about the victims. I mean, normally you would say, okay, maybe he's got a specific type. As of right now, I'm not sure that there's any particular type that they're able to discern. And that's what kind of connected in my mind in terms of when they said mission. There was something maybe mission-oriented with the types of people he was choosing. Let me ask you this. You've been involved in many of these types of investigations. Is it possible or even likely that investigators and authorities are holding back some information?
I think they could be, and usually there's a good reason for that. There's only so much they need the public to know, because if they need the public to help, of course, they're going to put some information out there. But they also don't want to tip off the killer to things that they know, because the killer then might use that to move on and to lie low. So they need this guy to make a mistake.
Would you expect this particular killer, someone in this particular situation, to have some sort of contact with authorities? We see that a lot in these types of cases.
We do see it, but not the majority of serial killers. And even the snipers, the teams of snipers we've seen, there was a pair in Phoenix, the Beltway snipers in 2002. They communicated with authorities because they had specific monetary demands and they wanted attention, but the ones in Phoenix weren't communicating. So it really depends on what their motivation is. And we look to victimology to understand them. We do have mostly males, not all, but mostly Hispanic, homeless. It comes up more often than not. So I think as we see more victims, which is likely, you use the victimology to try to understand what this person might be after.
All right, Mitra and Rich, let me get you into the conversation. Mitra, we had questioned yesterday whether it was too soon to label this guy a serial killer. Obviously, that is not the case, and we found that out over the course of the last couple of days. But it's even important from a public standpoint because it's important to let them know this is going on. I lived through that whole thing in D.C. when the D.C. snipers were running around, and I can tell you fear was gripping everyone. They were shooting people at gas stations, so you avoided gas stations. So it was a good thing that the information is out. So your thoughts on that?
You know, sometimes when you see the police release images, it's oftentimes to catch somebody who's done something. There's a different intention here. The intention is, do you see this person, and how can we stop this person from doing this again and again and again? So it's interesting because we don't know much about the pattern. We have some surveillance video and a possibility of some victims having some characteristics in common, but I don't think that's enough for me as an average person, a woman in, such and such age range, thinking that, okay, I'm safe. I don't know that I would necessarily feel safe based on what we know of the victimology now. So having those images out to the public is important in terms of tracking this person down and in terms of warning the public to have their eyes and ears open.
Rich, your thoughts on this case? As Matt said, it's frightening. Now, we're far away from that. I think most of you guys are nowhere near it. But certainly anyone in that area has got to be frightened.
It's incredibly frightened. And I'm interested, there are two concepts here that are sort of at odds. We hear that it's a mission-oriented thing, but we also hear that the victims are at random. And those two concepts don't necessarily fit together. I imagine the police have theories about what the mission is, and I imagine the police have theories about how these victims connect, either in fact or in concept, and they're working with all of that information. You asked, are they holding back information? I think certainly so. You don't reveal what you have in an ongoing investigation. The primary interest here is to do anything you can to stop this person from killing again.
Now, Mitra, I do want to apologize. You're in L.A., so you're a ways from Stockton, but yet again, still close enough because these folks travel, and that's why let me bring back in Katherine. Katherine, how does the investigation proceed? What are the most important things? Is it the victims? Is it the methodology? What are the most important things that investigators are looking at right now to try to track this guy down?
Well, they're using a combination of methods. They will be looking for any kind of CCTV camera footage or even people's doorbell cameras. They're going to be asking people what they might have seen, what they might have heard, not just at the time of the incidents, but perhaps they're talking to people who heard something else. So they're going to canvass the neighborhoods. They could be using geographical profiling, which is a software-based approach where you look at how the incidents are all related to one another to try to identify why the offender is using this particular area. So they're probably going to use a combined series of methods.
Let me ask you this. Now, in your experience, you have extensive experience, have written books on the topic. What is the thing that cracks these cases? Or maybe there's a couple of different things that seem to crack these types of cases. What have you seen? When these guys are caught, when they're found, what's the thing that most often leads police to capture?
Well, we definitely have offenders making mistakes. They think they're safe because they haven't been caught. They're emboldened, so they will make a mistake. Or also just really good, dedicated police work. That's high on the list. That's a good percentage of these killers have been caught with somebody just staying with it, being persistent, watching for any small clue, hearing about something. So really, those two things are the two top things that catch killers.
You know, Mitra, I think in this day and age, it goes back to what you mentioned earlier, showing this video, hoping people see the guy. He at least seems to have a little bit of a distinct walk, kind of bops along there. You know, it just sort of belies someone who's actually out there looking to kill people. But at the end of the day, I would think in this day and age, it's going to be something like that, some kind of video and somewhere that he may not expect. That will be able to see who this guy is, and then get their hands on him.
I agree that it's going to be a mistake. It's going to be something that he didn't think through, that, you know, that results in some sort of pattern where somebody spotted him doing something here and then something similar over there. And I think it's going to come down to that, because when you release footage like this, when it is not completely identifiable who this person is, sure, you have a walk and, you know, a certain shape, but a lot of people might, you know, look and move like that. You get, you know, these telephone lines that are inundated with people who think they saw someone, and, you know, they're